How much are gas prices presently in your state?
I am in America and I am in the state of Colorado, so Denver area. And I saw gas for 4.85, $4.85 a gallon. And to put that in perspective, it is normally about $2.30, 2.40 maybe. So it's doubled.
4.80 a gallon. All right, we are at 1.90 per liter. So how many gallons are in a liter?
Listen, I didn't know there was going to be math on this
I've got my
interview,
I've got my
Sean.
calculator ready.
Thank
I've got my
God.
calculator ready.
We in
Gallons
America,
to liters.
as you know, Sean,
4.54. So we're at
yeah,
1.9 times the exchange rate, which is the pound dollar right now.
we have to make everything we have to make everything difficult here in America by just not following the rest of the world on the metric system. I apologize on
1.9
behalf of
1.9 times 1.21 times 4.54, $10.43. We are at what compared to your four something. We're W right now.
oof, rough.
Yeah.
Oh man, yeah. And I'm
We're,
seeing people in the chat saying $6.39 in California. Yeah, of course. Yeah, California's. Here's the thing, though. The reason why gas prices in America are all over the place and fluctuate so much is that each individual state has the ability to put on their own set of taxes on it. So you go into one state might have, I don't know, might be like 60 cents or 40 cents a dollar more in taxes than say the neighboring state. And they all go towards different things. So that's why there's such a variation. Also, it just depends on how close you are to shipping hubs and things like that. If you're a gas station that's kind of remote in the mountains, or you're the one gas station, Sean, you know this, on the in between Southern California and Vegas, those prices are always a lot higher than everyone else. So there's a supply and demand component to this as well, but it gets warped when you add in taxes. And of course, here in America, some of the things, the Biden administration goes on television and they talk about how, we've got, these gas prices are out of control and they're crazy and everything. It's like, true, but this is a product of our own doing too, because we had we had gas, or we had oil drilling leases that companies had signed on with the American government in order to drill for oil on this government land, and you have to pay for the lease on it, and the government has to allow you to have that, and the government's canceled them. I mean, they're doing the exact opposite that you would do if you were actually serious about trying to bring the gas prices down. So the question becomes, are you trying to intentionally keep the gas prices high? Because if you are, you're doing all the right things to keep them high. If they're saying we want to get them down, but they're not then doing the things that you would do in order to get them down, like open up the leases, tap into the emergency supply that we have, reconfigure our relationships at the ports. California's got some really wonky things going on with electric trucks that are not able to service the California ports, and there's port congestion there as a result of this. All these things could be fixed. Joe Biden could go in and say today, we're getting rid of all these gas taxes. We're renewing all these leases immediately. We're opening up the emergency supply. We're going to do everything we can. Since none of those things have happened, it leads me to believe that he doesn't want to do those things. He doesn't want to bring them. I suggest the reason for that. Obviously, it's bad for his polls. It's bad for everything. But if you think of it in a roundabout kind of way, when he went on the campaign talking about build back better, that's the World Economic Forum's concept. That's their plan, the Build Back Better plan. And implied in that name is when it's the build back better. So it implies that everything that currently is there has to be destroyed in order for you to build it back better than it was before. So if you think about, and one of the key components of the Build Back Better program is getting into the green energy, getting away from fossil fuels. And Biden said this when he was running in 2020. He said, I'm going to get rid of all these. He did all the things he said he was going to do. Just people, I guess, didn't think he was serious or something. I don't know. But if you wanted to make the push to renewables and sort of force everyone in there, one way you would do it would be to have astronomically high gas prices that never come down. It would then force this sort of transition. And it's not me speculating about that. They're on the record talking about this. The transition is going to be rough. We're going to keep everything is going to be really expensive, but in the end, we're going to transition to this new thing, and then everything is going to be, unicorns and rainbows. And well, it's not going to be. Everything's going to be a catastrophe, and you're going to have high gas prices too. So it's part of a much larger agenda, and I think he's disguising it as ineptitude, when in actuality, this is part of a plan to keep prices high. Because if it was simply ineptitude, somebody would step in and say, this, and this, we can do these things right away, prices will come down, your poll numbers will go up, everything will be better. Yet they're not doing it. So it leads me to believe that it's intentional.
Yeah, never underestimate the power of the lobbyists for the Texas oil fat cats. They must be tickling the hog bellies right now, or Biden is tickling the hog bellies right now. But because at any moment the next guest might come in, otherwise we're going to go back to this, the Fed and stagflation. But I just want to ask Charlie quick, because when we brought him in, I didn't really reintroduce him. I would like him to tell us more about his Macroaggressions podcast and the new subscription model he is rolling out.
Yeah, Macroaggressions is my podcast. It goes out in audio format wherever podcasts are available, and also in video format on Rockfin, Odyssey, Iconic, and Band.video. The website is theoctopusofglobalcontrol.com, and we are going to be launching, I guess I'll make the announcement here, we're going to be launching a paid premium service later this summer, and we're getting everything working on that. That's going to be called Macro Plus, and you got to see the logo, man. I just took CNN Plus's logo and just straight up stole it. It's so funny. And I guarantee Plus will be around for longer than CNN Plus. All we have to do is pass 3 weeks. We'll be good. So that'll be coming later on this summer. I'll coordinate with you. I'll come back on. We'll have a chat about it once everything is up and running. And of course, you are on my list of guests to have on. So we'll see if we can find an hour from your schedule and get you to come on.
Yeah, I would be absolutely delighted, my friend. And Ash has just confirmed that the next guest isn't coming on, and he's hoping that Charlie will be so kind as to stay with us for another 25 minutes.
Sure.
So before we take viewer questions, if you do have a question, please put them in the chat. We'll have Ash keep a track of the questions in case I miss any. But I just wanted to further this conversation with Charlie because I'm fascinated by the economic cycle that seems to be dominating the world right now. We've got inflation all over the place, prices going up. But we've got bills going up for people, and people are feeling the squeeze. And how do you think this is going to play out, Charlie? Are we going back to the 70s? Are there going to be food shortages? Are there going to be power outages in the modern Western economies?
Maybe. I mean, I think so. I think definitely food issues. Well, and let me say this first. In America, there's a problem that we have that we need to fix, and it has nothing to do with politicians or anything like that. We waste a lot of food. I shouldn't say it has nothing to do with politicians. There are some restrictions that cause us to be forced to waste some food, but as a society, we become very used to the never-ending supply chain. That when we go to the store, there's going to be food there. We're very comfortable with that. We know it's going to be there. We've become detached from our ability to grow food ourselves. We don't understand the supply chain very well. And so we have put ourselves in a situation where based on just having the just-in-time delivery model that especially with that feeds cities, we put ourselves in a position where just about anything can create a supply chain issue related to food. And we're unprepared for that. So whether we have actual food shortages or we just kind of run through this dress rehearsal, it would behoove us to be better about our relationship with food, our relationship to getting it, growing it, dealing with it, not wasting it. All these things need to change. Now, the reason why I think that this is going to actually wind up happening in the form of food shortages is because much like the topic that I don't think we're allowed to talk about that rolled in the middle of 2020, they have done simulations in advance of that agenda rolling out. And you go back in time and you say, hey, Event 201, this happened 6 months before everything took place. And there's like a live simulation going on and these people are role playing this exact same thing. Well, if you go back to 2017, there was another simulation called Food Chain Reaction. And what they did with this was they brought in teams from all over the world. Not every country was represented, but America, Brazil, Russia, China, no, I should say Russia. Europe was clumped into one group. India was its own. Africa was put into one group. And then they had two other groups that were the investor group and then the multinational institutions like the IMF, World Bank, United Nations. And they ran this simulation for the years, take a while, 2020 to 2030, right on schedule with that Agenda 2030. And they ran a simulation to show what would happen if the food chain broke down, if the supply chain in conjunction with fertilizer issues, wink, wink, what's going on now, political instability, rioting, all this stuff. And you go through this document. It's available. It's not hidden or anything like that. You can find Food Chain Reactions, a 47-page PDF document that explains the whole event. And what they did is they simulated how the food chain would break down, what would happen, what the results would be, how they would fix it, and what would be the best result to get us through all this. Now, it sounds like something like I'm not trying to bash that in and of itself, because I think practice makes perfect. Role playing, there's nothing nefarious about role playing necessarily. If you're just planning for these future scenarios, there's nothing wrong with that. The problem is when the simulation goes live and it looks exactly like the simulation, and that's what we're seeing here. And unfortunately, spoiler alert for the Food Chain Reaction simulation, the way it ends, the suggestions that are made are not good. The suggestions that are made is that we go through in the fake simulation, 2022, 2020, all the way to 2024, really bad for food. Major food insecurity, people are starving, riots, all this stuff. They just simulated that. The answer, the solution that they propose at the end of this is the giveaway that it's a gigantic scam and that it's being made to happen, because the solution isn't improve crop technology, improve water distribution, improve supply, none of that stuff. No. The only solution is to create a new agency that manages this, that is overseen by the United Nations, which brings in an army to be pre-positioned in these countries around the world in case there's food insecurity, and that the real solution to all of this is a carbon tax. And it's like, there you go. This is what it is. It's a gigantic scam. So the question is, do I think there's going to be food shortages? The answer is, I think it's very possible that there will be food shortages, not because we magically forgot how to grow food or anything like that, but because they're going to make them happen. We already see what's going on with, we've got Ukraine as the breadbasket of Europe, right, with the wheat production. We've got Russia as either number one or number two in the world in terms of making fertilizer, potash. And these things are not being allowed to be distributed throughout the world. This is a huge problem. This is manufactured. We've got food processing facilities just up and exploding when they're not getting hit by airplanes, which has now happened twice. It's very hard to look at these things as coincidences at this point. I mean, my little tinfoil hat head starts thinking about all these things as being made to happen. So unfortunately, I think that the food situation is going to get worse. I don't want that to happen. Obviously, I'm not trying to speak that into existence, but I'm reading their documents, and their documents are simulating this scenario, and we're in the early stages of it. And it's much like the SPARS pandemic document too, which you look at and you go, well, this looks like a blueprint for what we've been going through for the last 2 years. And that was created years in advance as well. So I think it's important. Kind of takes us right back to Bilderberg, right? When we say, well, they're plotting things that are going to happen 5 years from now. Food Chain Reaction was written in 2017.
Wow.
We're now 5 years from that, and we're experiencing the same thing. So I think it's worth paying attention. And I think that people should really, if they can, start to think about their relationship with food in a much different way, in a way that is as get yourself ready for that. I guess the best that you can, if that's storing up food or if it's growing your own food, if you have that ability, it's time to change our ways. We really have to.
All right, we've got 15 minutes left with Charlie. Thanks for the questions that have come in. We'll try and get through these. There are several. I'll just go straight to the one that ties in to the present topic. This is from Anexus, talking about food and agriculture. What do you think about Bill Gates and China buying up so much agricultural land in the US?
Well, it's a huge problem. And I'll tell you why. There's Bill Gates has been doing several things that would make you very suspicious of him. First of all, buying up all the farmland. That in and of itself is not, I don't love it. But a case could be made that productive farmland is a great investment. He's got a lot of money. He's diversifying. I don't think that's what he's doing, but an argument could be made that. However, here's where he loses me with that, I'm just diversifying my portfolio argument. He is or at least at one point was the largest individual shareholder of Monsanto. Monsanto is the maker of genetically modified seeds and Roundup and a bunch of other poisonous things that have to do with the big agri-food industry.
Voted the most evil company in the world year after year after year, and then finally got bought out to change their name to get away from that.
Yeah, that by another company, Bayer, who has ties to some unspeakable things in Germany back in the 40s. I mean, they're no good either. So this wasn't like they got bought by some company that everybody loves. They got bought by the second most evil company in the world. So it was hardly like a brand. And then they have all the Roundup glyphosate lawsuits that are coming in all over the place, at least here. So he's a large investor there. He is one of the primary financiers. He's the primary financier of the Svalbard Seed Vault in Norway, which is 1,100 away from the North Pole. It's an island with a mountain. You go 400 feet up the mountain, 300 feet into the mountain, and they have built this seed vault, this impenetrable seed vault where countries around the world can store their original seeds, real seeds. There used to not be a differentiation between these two things. So you've got real seeds there, and they're hidden, away from the pores up in a mountain somewhere. And he financed that with the Rockefeller Foundation, the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, Syngenta, and the government of Norway. So again, Syngenta, by the way, has won that award as worst corporation in the world one of the years. So they're in the conversation. So he's got that. He's got fake meat through Beyond Meat. He has started a new venture capital fund that is working on saving the climate, all that stuff. And that is producing, you might have seen the press release about a month ago about a new product called BioMilk, BIOMILQ, BioMilk. BioMilk is a fake milk formula for breastfeeding mothers, or I'm sorry, birthing persons. Whatever, So they've in as if Bill Gates wasn't bad enough. Like, you look at the list of investors in that company, it's like Larry, it's like all the guys from BlackRock and Prince Awalid bin Talal and Jeff Bezos and Mark Zuckerberg. It's like a who's who of, it's like the bar from Star Wars. It's just all those guys are invested in this venture capital fund. So the question is am I worried about Bill Gates owning all this farmland? Yeah, I'm really worried about it, because if you can, this is the Henry Kissinger model. Henry Kissinger talked about this. That it is in 1975, he put out a document that was signed off on by Gerald Ford that said that the United States' attitude toward foreign policy should be one of depopulation and controlling the food supplies. So, like, I'm concerned about that, because I think the wrong people are in charge of the food.
We've got another food question from Nikki Stedman. There are foods like meats grown in a petri dish, so we don't have to kill animals. What's your thoughts on this, Charlie?
Well, look, if I thought it was a great solution so that we didn't have to kill animals, I'd be all in favor of that. I love animals, and I love animals, but I fully recognize my hypocrisy in the fact that I also eat meat. So I get that. If I thought it was just an easy trade-off, then I would be open to it. But the problem is, when you look at these companies that are making synthetic meats, let's take this as an example. Here in America, the fast food chain Burger King, they have their flagship product is the Whopper, kind of like big quarter pounder, right? It's just a big cheeseburger. They have a new version, the Beyond Meat Whopper, and it's billed as being this alternative to having hamburger meat. You don't have to have hamburger, you're going to have this. And I think that maybe the perception, or maybe the assumption is, it's healthier for me, it's less calories. It's only 5% fewer calories. However, it has 16 million times more phytoestrogen in it than a traditional Whopper. So it is like a bioweapon in and of itself. And that is the problem with the lab-grown meat. If it was just about getting away from killing these animals, I'd be I don't know if I'd be necessarily in favor of it, but I'd be really open to the idea. And maybe we'll get there. But again, who's in charge of the technology? It's Bill Gates, and he's financing Beyond Meat, and all these celebrities are putting money into it. I'm not interested in that, because I don't think it's going to do what they say it's going to do. I think the wrong people are behind that. And the lab-grown meat is an interesting topic, because nobody's really interested in it. I just talked to somebody that was explaining how that company pays to have their products put in the grocery stores right now, because nobody wants it. So there's not enough of a demand for the grocery stores to say to Beyond Meat, oh, we like this new product that you've got. Here, we'll buy a bunch and put it in our stores. They're saying, we're not interested. And Beyond Meat is saying, we'll pay you to put it in there. Even whether you sell it or not, we'll pay you to put it in there. That is a sign that there's no demand. So they're creating artificial demand, and when you've got all the money in the world, you can do crazy things like that. But that's not a real marketplace. That's a fake marketplace when you do things like that. So I don't know that people really have the appetite for it. I think once they get educated about what's really in that, they'll change their ways. I mean, listen, I guess it's better than eating the bugs, but not by much.
So when I go to the restaurant, Charlie, and I see this Beyond Meat burger, trademark Beyond Meat, I'm eating what? Genetically modified fungus, phytochemical crap, toxic, poison? What? What did you say? I'm eating thousands of what?
Phyto 16 million times the normal amount of phytoestrogen.
What is and what does?
It's not a traditional estrogen, but it is a form of estrogen. I don't think it gets processed in your body. I'm not a scientist. I can't speak to this on the details of it. I don't think it's exactly the same as saying it's straight estrogen, but it's phytoestrogen. It's not. If you're a man and you're consuming a disproportionate amount of soy, and in America, 87% of the soybeans that are grown or sold are GMO. You're ingesting a not even a traditional, not even a real form of soybeans. You're eating GMO soybeans, and those soybeans have a disproportionate amount of estrogen, phytoestrogen in it, and it is contributing to that soy boy myth. Not myth. It's more like a reality.
So if it leaks into the water, will it produce gay frogs? Was Alex Jones correct?
Yeah. Well, there's a chemical that they sprayed on plants that when it would run off into the river, it would create a situation where the frogs would change genders. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. It's. I mean, listen, Alex. We can say what we want about Alex, of course. I mean, he's an entertainer, and he's compromised. On certain things, whatever. He was right about that. I mean, you sound. But when you're 10 years early on it, you're going to sound insane, of course. But they're turning the frogs gay. Well, they're turning the frogs like into hermaphrodites.
All right, so the next guest is about to come in, so we've just got one final question, Charlie. And that is, what is your next book going to be about?
Ooh, well, I just absolutely despise the mainstream corporate horror media. And I believe that I will probably take a shot at them. I'm always kind of writing. But as far as assembling that, I think that's a project I'm going to take on next year. Like I mentioned earlier, we're about to do a new version of Macroaggressions that is like an expanded version, and I'm really going to be focusing on that this summer. Normally, I'd be working on a book during the summer. I'm still going to be writing parts of it, but as far as the focus and assembly, I think that'll probably happen sometime next year. But yeah, the media. Because they deserve it, because they're just the worst, and I want to make sure that everybody knows that they are, what their role is, who they work for, why they lie to you, who is instructing them to lie, and why it's dangerous. So yeah, that'll be coming. But that's in all three of my previous books. The first, The Octopus of Global Control, Controlled Demolition of the American Empire, and Hypocrisy, Surviving in a World of Cultural Double Standards. All three of those books have a media component. It's a thread that runs through there. I can't stand them. They're evil. They're one of the worst components to this. So I take every opportunity I can to remind people of the damage that the media does.
And over the 10 interviews we've done with you, Charlie, over the years, you've been banned from various platforms, and I tend to lose track. Could you just remind the guests, because some of this goes out on audio only now as well, could you remind the viewers, where they could find you, send you love and support, stalk you, troll you?
Yes, absolutely. On Twitter, @Macroaggression. That's the best place to find me for social media. I'm on Facebook as well, under The Octopus of Global Control. I don't check it too much because they put me in jail for ridiculous things. But also the website, theoctopusofglobalcontrol.com, is a great place for people to connect with me. I'm pretty accessible. If people have questions, they can reach me there, and or if they want to tell me I'm awful, that's fine too.
Fantastic. And you mentioned me coming on your show. When is this show going to be up?
I'm starting on everything this summer, so we'll probably towards the end of probably towards August we'll get you on.
All right, fantastic. Wish you all the best with it, my friend. You take care. Cheers.
Thank you all. See you.